Hey guys, my name is Sergey Gusev. Welcome to my studio. Welcome to my channel. Today in this video I want to talk about underdrawing. How to make a good underdrawing. Why it is so important to make a good underdrawing. So let's get started. And today I'm going to work on a portrait of a small boy. And I will show how to start off, how to continue and finish the underdrawing. So what's exactly an underdrawing? It's a drawing you make before you paint. And there are several ways to make a good underdrawing. I'm going to show one of them. And as a surface, I'm using a panel. Not a canvas, but it's a panel. And I'm going to draw with graphite pencils. I would say it's more comfortable to draw with graphite pencils if you're using a panel, and if you're using a canvas, it's better in my opinion to use charcoal or charcoal pencils. It's not really comfortable to draw with graphite pencils on a canvas. They're too hard for that, and charcoal is much softer, and so in my opinion it's better to use it for canvas drawing. So while I'm drawing, I would like to talk a little bit about underdrawing and why it is so important to make it, and how to make it well. I would say a good painting is based on a good drawing. And so if you are making a good drawing, it means you will probably make a good painting, because painting is based on a good drawing. Drawing means proportions, the right proportions. It means values. And if you make a really good underdrawing with the right proportions and the right values, you can make a good painting in the end. And in this video I'm showing how I'm working on a portrait of a boy, and this is the first stage when I draw. And like always when I'm drawing, I start off with a quick sketch, just a few lines on the surface. And when I'm making those lines, I try to set up the right proportions. And by the right proportions, I mean the width of the face and the height of the head. And we have to always compare the width and the height of the head, and also the small details. So mostly when we're making this underdrawing, we should care for the correct proportions and the big silhouettes, the big shapes. Usually I do not draw a lot of details, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't draw a lot of details. If you want so, you can do it. It's not so important, because it's not a drawing, it's a drawing we're gonna use for painting. So I would say it's more important to set up the big proportions, and also to make the portrait look alike. Then of course when we start to paint, we can correct it a little bit, and make it more detailed and make it more finished. But if we make a lot of mistakes on this stage, it will be really difficult to paint because we'll have to adjust a lot and fix a lot of things and just spend a lot of time, because when we're painting, it's better to care for the colors, but not for the basic things like the proportions or likeness or anything like that. And so I always recommend, when I'm teaching or when I'm making these quick tutorials or when I'm drawing for myself, I always try to start off with a quick sketch and set up the right proportions. So the first thing we should care is the right proportions of the head. So just make sure that it's not too wide or too narrow or too long or too short. And if you're a beginner, or maybe it's your first portrait or one of the first portraits, just spend more time to draw it. No rush at all in this stage. You can usually advise to print out the picture you're working on and better in the same size, and you can literally measure the proportions of the head, of the face, or of the facial details. And after I made a quick sketch, I start to draw a little bit more on the details. And the first thing I do, I outline the big shapes, the big silhouettes. So I didn't draw the eyelashes or the pupil or the nostrils or anything. I just outlined the eye sockets, the tip of the nose, a very quick sketch, a few lines, just to find the right place. And after I draw them, I always check if they're on the right places and if the proportions are correct. So always make sure that the proportions of the head match the original ones, and so you will skip a lot of mistakes. It's not so important and maybe not necessary to use values, to draw the shadows, the reflections, and the pupils and so on. But again, if it is your first drawing or maybe one of your first drawings, I would suggest to draw a little bit more and longer, and just don't try to skip this stage, because just believe me, it's very important to make this first drawing. And so if you work with the tone, you should always remember about the light source. And I always remind my students that it's really important to remember about the light source. If you are drawing or paint, it doesn't matter, you just have to remember about it. And usually light comes from above, and the same happens with this portrait. And so usually we get the strongest contrast in the eye sockets. Then the shadows in the nostrils, they are also usually very dark, but just don't make them pure black. When you're painting or drawing, just don't make them too black. I would say the darkest spots in any face is the pupils of the eyes. You can make them completely even black. And I help myself with the brush, it's a bristle brush, and I smooth the strokes out and also draw a little bit, darken down some areas. And you see, when we start working with the values, we get more volume in the head. It looks more volumetric right now because we have big light and big shadow. I think I'm using an HB graphite pencil, or maybe it's a B graphite pencil. I would say it's better to use not really soft pencils. Use something like HB or a B graphite pencil. But of course, when you need some strong hits, you can use a 5B pencil or something like that. Well, usually I don't make such a detailed underdrawing when I'm painting for myself, but this portrait, this painting, because it's gonna be a painting, I made especially for this video, and I thought that maybe some of you would like to see just a better, more finished drawing, even though I'm gonna paint over it. And I would like to remind you again that every time on every stage you should go back and check the basic things like the big proportions, the big shapes. Just make sure you don't make the head too short, for example, or too narrow. And also remember to check the details and make sure then, for example, the eyes are not too big or too small. And then also check the nose, the tip of the nose, how wide it is, and so on. Just spend as much time as you need and as you want to spend to draw, and remember that the better you draw, the better you paint. So if you make a lot of mistakes right now on this stage, you will have anyways to correct them when you're painting, and it's gonna be more difficult to fix it later on. So I would just highly recommend to spend time right now and make sure everything's going well. And when you're drawing, remember that all the shadows are always much darker than the lights. So also remember to check it and make sure that the lights are stronger and if you just make them too dark, just remember to clean them up. I'm not making a really perfect drawing, and it's not finished at all, and I don't think it is so important to finish every detail, because we will paint anyways, and paint as detailed as we want. So right now I care mostly for the basic things. And of course I always remember about the head's construction. If you can find and read some anatomy books, I would highly recommend you to do it, because it's very important to understand what you draw or paint. So it would be really good for you to just read or learn or draw more and understand the structure of the head, and maybe even to draw some of the head, some details of the head. I mean, an eye or nose, an ear, and just understand how they work, how they look from different angles. And also when you draw, make another drawing or just drawing, please remember to think about the head's, the composition, because the head can, some people make it too big, for example, or too small, and just remember to make it a little bit smaller than the life size. But of course, if your surface is very small, for example, if you're drawing on A4 paper, for example, or canvas or panel or anything, if it's not so big, don't make the head so huge. So usually it's a little bit smaller than life size. And right now I'm working on the hair, and with a brush, it's a bristle brush. It's very hard and it's very comfortable to work on big flat spots like the hair, for example. It's very important to remember about the resemblance, so make sure your portrait looks alike. If not, just draw more and try to find out where you made the mistakes, and when you see any mistake, try to fix it as soon as possible. Of course, it's not a really perfect drawing, and I'm gonna adjust it when I start painting over it. But basically, I made it like I need, and I think the proportions look very fine, and the values do so as well. So I'm just making the final touches here and there and darkening down some areas. You can draw even more and finish it more and work more on the details. Again, it depends on you, on your taste, or on your experience, and on what you want to get. And again, I would suggest you to draw more and don't skip this stage, because some artists, especially beginners, they think that they will paint and fix everything while painting, but it's real difficult and it just takes a lot of time, and it's so much easier to make a fine drawing and then paint over it and make good paints. And so I think that's it, and I showed and gave some tips, and maybe they were helpful for you. And if so, you can subscribe to my channel and you won't miss out on my new videos, where I'm going to show how to make underpaints in my next videos, and just continue explaining some basic things about drawing and painting.